Am Joseph Severn? The guide confirmed politely. Yes. I lied. It was now my name, but never my identity. CEO Gladstone still wishes to see you later in the evening. You will be notified when she is free for the appointment. Very good. If you desire anything in the way of refreshment or entertainment that is not set out, merely speak your wish aloud and the grounds monitors will seek to provide it. I nodded, smiled, and left the guide behind. Before I had strolled a dozen steps, he had turned to the next guests alighting from the Terminex platform. From my vantage point on a low knoll, I could see several thousand guests milling across several hundred acres of manicured lawn, many of them wandering among forests of topiary. Above the stretch of grass where I stood, its broad sweep already shaded by the line of trees along the river, lay the formal gardens, and beyond them rose the imposing bulk of Government House. A band was playing on the distant patio, and hidden speakers carried the sound to the farthest reaches of Deer Park. A constant line of EMVs spiraled down from a Farcaster portal far above. For a few seconds, I watched their brightly clad passengers disembark at the platform near the pedestrian Terminex. I was fascinated by the variety of aircraft. Evening light glinted not only on the shells of the standard Vikings and Alts and Sumatsos, but also on the rococo decks of levitation barges and the metal hulls of antique skimmers which had been quaint when old Earth still existed. I wandered down the long, gradual slope to the river Tethys, past the dock where an incredible assortment of rivercraft disgorged their passengers. The Tethys was the only web-wide river, flowing past its permanent Farcaster portals through sections of more than 200 worlds and moons, and the folk who lived along its banks were some of the wealthiest in the hegemony. The vehicles on the river showed this. Great crenellated cruisers, canvas-laden barks, and 5-tiered barges, many showing signs of being equipped with levitation gear, elaborate houseboats, obviously fitted with their own Farcasters, small modal isles imported from the oceans of Maui Covenant, sporty pre-Hejira speedboats and submersibles, an assortment of hand-carved nautical EMVs from Renaissance Vector, and a few contemporary go-everywhere yachts, their outlines hidden by the seamless, reflective ovoid surfaces of containment fields. The guests who alighted from these craft were no less flamboyant and impressive than their vehicles. Personal styles ranged from pre-Hejira conservative evening wear on bodies obviously never touched by Poulsen treatments to this week's highest fashion from TC Squared, draped on figures molded by the web's most famous arnists. Then I moved on, pausing at a long table just long enough to fill my plate with roast beef, salad, sky squid fillet, Parvati curry, and fresh-baked bread. The low evening light had faded to twilight by the time I found a place to sit near the gardens, and the stars were coming out. The lights of the nearby city and administration complex had been dimmed for tonight's viewing of the Armada, and Tau Ceti Center's night sky was more clear than it had been for centuries. A woman near me glanced over and smiled. "I'm sure that we've met before." I smiled back, sure that we had not. She was very attractive, perhaps twice my age, in her late 50s standard, but looking younger than my own 26 years, thanks to money and Poulsen. Her skin was so fair that it looked almost translucent. Her hair was done in a rising braid. Her breasts, more revealed than hidden by the wisp-wear gown, were flawless. Her eyes were cruel. "Perhaps we have," I said, "although it seems unlikely. My name is Joseph Severn." "Of course," she said, "you're an artist." I was not an artist. I had been, a poet. But the Severn identity, which I had inhabited since my real persona's death and birth a year before, stated that I was an artist. It was in my all-thing file. "I remembered," laughed the lady. She lied. She had used her expensive Comlog implants to access the datasphere. I did not need to access. A clumsy, redundant word, which I despised despite its antiquity.